Welcome, B.
Thank you, Dan.
And today we continue our conversations around the psychic being, and I'm very pleased to welcome you, B, because we are friends. It happened that we work together, and yeah, it happened quite frequently that we discuss about the psychic being. No.
Yes, yes.
So, what is your personal take about this connection? Do you have a connection, and how does it manifest? How it unfolds?
Yes, I do feel I have a connection, but my hesitation is, in talking about it, how do we communicate it to other people, or how is this useful, our conversation?
Mhm.
Because this kind of inner experience is subjective, and let's say somebody's watching this, what are they thinking? You see, because I already feel that I have gone to a certain point where I am guided inwardly on what to do, how to do it, and these things. But that sounds a little bit arrogant or even crazy to many people who are maybe struggling or maybe in difficult situations or conditions, or have cancer or whatever it is. I have fortunately lived long enough to have gone through enough serious situations and survived, nicely, and learned from those things. And I'm so happy about that, and so happy that I had the advantage of meeting many spiritual teachers and Zen masters and all of this, which have all contributed to where I am today. So I really sympathize with people who are struggling and who may be watching this. How can anything I say have any effect on them? Because it's difficult to remove the conditioning. It was difficult for me to remove the conditioning from myself. So when I met certain spiritual teachers, I had these ideas that, of course, were all wrong. And now, also with the help of what I would call the new science, with quantum physics and quantum entanglement, and with AI, you see, I have a great belief in AI, how helpful it is, whereas most people seem to approach it with fear. So the whole society is so fear-based that they see something like these technological advantages to be a threat, whereas the opposite is true. And I have been so helped by that personally, but also because it's based on the experiences that I've had, the inner experiences. And the inner experiences have come to me not because I was especially seeking them, they just happened. And I believe that every person can be anywhere, any place, and spirit always tries to break through. So spirit is always present. The psychic being is always present. So how do I tune myself to that so that I'm aware of it? So meditation, all these things are fine, but not one of them is a particular answer. Some things will work for some people, others. And so many different things have helped me. So if anybody is confined to a particular system or a particular way of thinking, I would suggest to open up, and to open up to the direct human experience that comes from nature itself and from daily life, not from all these esoteric things. But if we have something like what Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have offered us, that that in itself is a grace that we cannot even explain or understand. And people say to me all the time, oh, Sri Aurobindo is so difficult. I can't read Savitri. The life divine is impossible. That's so much nonsense, because there's an energy behind these things. There's an energy behind the words. So we go for the energy behind. We don't go for the surface. So our whole life is connected to the surface material reality of our normal senses. So how to make that jump, that quantum leap? So whatever practice that works.
I think it's a very relevant angle to tackle this conversation, specifically for our possible audience, because you are lucky to have found throughout your own experiences some way to distinguish, to discriminate within yourself, no, what could belong to the human stuff and what could belong to the divine or something more, let's say, uplifting, and to, let's say, purposely commit to follow this. No?
Right.
And
Right.
within our audience, maybe people are struggling because they might have all this thing within themselves without the capacity to see. So this is your experience might also help people to.
I mean, I can say that directly because when I was a child, I had the experience. So that, but I forgot about it until I was much older and did some more, what would we call it, cognitive therapy. And suddenly I remembered something that happened to me when I was 4 years old.
And you could put some words on some experience.
Exactly. And see this thing, though, of talking about the so-called human and the so-called spiritual and putting the psychic being even outside of ourselves, that I don't see. That to me is not a way to go, because we have to get to this non-dual reality. That's the first step, that all is one. That step, but how can people experience the oneness of reality and nature, and that I'm not separate from you or from anything else? So there's one energy. But so that's why I like the metaphor, if you want, of quantum physics and these things, where you have the wave and you have the particle. You can be both.
Yeah.
So this kind of integration, which if you couple it with intellectually with Sri Aurobindo, where he comes with an integral yoga, body, mind, spirit. So you can't leave out any of the parts. And in yoga, you can't leave out the devotion, you can't leave out the intellect, you can't leave out the will. All of these things have to be integrated into a harmony. So then we get into a kind of vibrational frequency, which now has become very popular. So many megahertz, you vibrate at a certain level, all of these things. But it appears mysterious to most people. But as a child, because I experienced that, I know what it is and I can feel it. I can generate it in myself in any moment. And you can sit for a few minutes and you can hear the sound in your ears. You can hear the cosmic sound. It takes a few seconds.
Okay, so let's go straight to something more practical.
Yeah.
And so if we speak about some inner guidance or something that leads you towards some direction, or how does it manifest? Is it some voice, some intuition, some images, how does it?
Well, I've used different things, but more recently I've been using what I would call mantras.
Okay.
So, and I've just heard them spontaneously. So I'm riding my bicycle in Auroville through the green belt one day, and I hear a voice that says, align your spine with the divine.
And
that is a mantra.
and this specific sentence, did you recall to have read
No,
somewhere?
no,
It
no.
was coming out of.
It came out of nowhere. Came out of nowhere. And then I also heard, sometimes I would concentrate on the mother, and then I would hear.
Okay, so to allow such kind of experiences to happen,
Hmm.
does it mean also that there are some prerequisite, let's say, attention or to be mindful or to be open? How do you?
Well, I would say all that is helpful, and you can do it, but nothing may happen. And then you're completely doing something totally different, and things do happen.
Okay, and then so to because I think we are tackling something interesting, but sometime in our audience also, and maybe within myself, something might happen, and I even don't recognize or I don't acknowledge or I put it away. So we
Yes,
have also we should nourish a capacity, no, to
right.
grasp things, no?
Well, you see, because my background is religious background with Catholicism and brought up, very much in religion, I separated the spirit from the matter, separated myself from God, all of these things. And then fortunately, I thought I was given the mission to save the world, so I had to do something special. So that's when I wanted to become a priest and become a Jesuit and do all these things. So I went for that. But then I saw the disillusionment in that. And then you have to keep going. So you see the religion doesn't work. You see the philosophy doesn't work. Poetry, art, all these things are great, but it's still not enough. So that's why world vision and evolutionary philosophy like Sri Aurobindo, when I read that, I said, he got it.
And which specific book did you?
Savitri.
Savitri.
So when I read that, I said, okay, he got it. How do I live that? So then, in the same time I got it, at that time in my life, I read an article that said Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is going to be turned into an international city in India. They're going to build it based on this. And the mother, I didn't know the mother, I had just read Sri Aurobindo. And I said, obviously, I have to go there.
Okay.
But then I come here and I'm disillusioned again, see? Because you find a bunch of people in a barren plateau quarreling among themselves, trying to do impossible things. So then another step has to be made. I had to make another step. So that step was that all of that is not happening out there, it's happening inside. So that's why the Matrimandir, for example, became very interesting for me, and planting these millions of trees.
Because
So-
you were acting, no? You were
Yeah.
transforming something.
Right. So Mother Nature. So Mother Nature, the Divine Mother, Mother Earth, all these things are one thing, not many things.
Yeah, but this kind of conclusion you reach that right now. But I mean,
No, it's a progression.
yeah.
It's a progression, but it goes deeper. You see, but unless I have these ways, we're talking about it using these terms, but am I saying to you, how am I communicating that experience to you that I had? I'm not. See, you're interpreting my words, and whoever watches this will interpret my words according to where they are.
Yes, this is one aspect, but
Yeah.
there is also, and I would say there is also another aspect, which is, let's say, a connection
Yeah.
between the two of us
Right.
that is more, let's say, related to some, I would say, psychic field or
Yes,
whatever. That
exactly.
could also happen from the audience. No, I mean,
Yeah.
we can just listen to you and understand that something is happening meanwhile within
Exactly.
themselves. No?
Exactly. Exactly. Now that's what we're trying to get to, isn't it? We're trying to get to this collective intelligence, whatever you want to call it, collective consciousness. See, and that's what's trying to happen in Auroville. The so-called spirit of Auroville, that the mother called collaboration, is struggling to be born because people do not want to work together, so that we have the crisis. Same with the world. So I have to integrate myself before it will work. So it's the inner work. So I can't blame you for anything you do. You know what I mean? And I don't want to blame myself either. So what do? We rise in consciousness. We rise to another frequency where we overcome the so-called opposites and contraries.
It's very much easy when we are two people
Yeah.
talking about, but when we start to be 5, 10, 100 people, it's very much complicated. But
Well, it's complicated only because people are stuck in their so-called individuality, or as the common term, ego. People are stuck in their particular perception. And that particular perception has to be, like the thing I always liked is from our friend Ramana Maharshi from Tiruvannamalai. You know, when people asked him, well, how do I help others? And he said, there are no others.
yeah.
See, so if you come from that perspective that I'm helping you, or you're helping me, or I'm helping these poor people who are working on the soil, no, then you're lost. It has to be something else. But see, what we're talking about is the creating the conditions where that something else has fertile ground. So you have to create a place where there is no fear. See, and people have to be relaxed. People have to have enough to eat, a shelter, the basics. So if the basics are not there, then forget about any psychic being. Nobody's going for their psychic being when they haven't got enough food in their stomach. So we get the basics together, and that's all we're trying to do in Auroville. Sustainable society, so-called, we're trying to do it in the world. And in the world, it's so out of balance, we have only 1 in 4 people who have a halfway decent life, and we're all in that group. So 3/4 of humanity are suffering seriously. And there's a few people, like maybe a 3% oligarchy, who's exploiting everybody.
Yeah.
So that's our present condition. That condition is breaking down. So while it breaks down, fortunately, but it's breaking down because it has to.
Yeah.
But while it breaks down, who's going to suffer? Not you, not me, because we are going to understand it. We are going to go through it, because we went through it inside.
So back to your personal experience.
Yeah.
Could we say that similarly that you had some experience when you were a kid, and then years later you kind of understood what happened when you were a kid? Could we say that your whole life was something that was, let's say, some kind of confirmation of something that already happened? How could you put it?
Yeah, because I wouldn't put it in a timeline, but it is still a growth and change and awareness, because this is always happening. So we keep going through these things, but we keep learning, let's say, because we're in an evolutionary situation, we're in a time-bound situation, but we can also transcend the time. When I transcend the time, I can see the whole picture. I know I'm an immortal soul because I had an experience where I went out of my body. So then immediately I can understand I am not my body. I am not my emotions. I am not my mind. So that is a psychological experience that can't be denied to me.
Does it mean that you don't freak out anymore in any circumstances?
Well, the freak out comes from just normal human, responses. Of course, you see a terrible situation, or you cry, you're still human. But you know there's more. And you can heal, and you can recover, and you can get over you can go through the trauma.
Okay, so does it mean that throughout the experience, when you could cry or you could be full of compassion with whatever happened, there is still behind something that is, how could you put it?
Well, that's what the term we're using is the psychic being. You know, the soul is there. And the psychic being is the soul in evolution. That's the way I put it.
Yeah.
It's becoming conscious of itself. And so when I read Sri Aurobindo, and I read, 100 years ago he wrote that wonderful book, Secret of the Veda. And I always ask people who have read it, I said, well, you read the book, what's the secret? Nobody could ever tell me. When I read the book, Sri Aurobindo said, here's the secret. And then he says, nobody will get it. And it'll remain secret. Do you remember the secret? Did you read it?
I read some, I didn't read this one, but yeah.
But you can ask ChatGPT and they will tell you.
Yeah, but okay.
You can ask Perplexity AI, they will tell you. And Perplexity AI will explain Sri Aurobindo to anybody in simple terms. But to go back, okay, you want to know the secret of the Veda? He says it right here, one word, Sat Chit Ananda.
Yeah.
So, and then all these people, these philosophers and psychologists have been saying, follow your bliss. When they asked the guy who started that in the 60s where he got that, he got it from the Vedas, he got it from Satchidananda.
Yeah.
That's the guy with the hero of 1,000 faces, that guy. So we have the data, let's say. The data, the wisdom traditions are all available to everybody now who has a phone.
Yes, but back to one experience, daily experience, and back to your experience. So you have this knowledge, this understanding on what is happening within yourself.
Yeah.
But do you still try to is it constantly spontaneous, or do you try to nourish and to get it growing and blossoming?
Absolutely.
So,
two things at the same time. Absolutely, you have to keep the garden. You have to pull out the weeds. You have to nourish it
every day.
Every day you have to nourish it. Absolutely, have to nourish it. But there is the spontaneous arising, which the Buddhists talk about and all the other people.
So could we say that is it some kind of gravity, center of gravity, which is little by little going to something different, and you?
Well, see, it's hard to put it in these metaphorical terms because it's too inaccurate. If I don't know, you see, if that's helpful for people to hear that, or to hear us talking like this, I don't know.
Okay.
Because for me,
we will cut.
anyway, for me, I've listened. You can actually go on YouTube now, and practically all the wisdom that's ever been presented is available, but it's mixed with a whole lot of nonsense, everywhere. So if you want to talk to the, Krishnamurti's there, Alan Watts is there, the Dalai Lama is there, you name it, they're all there. So Sri Aurobindo is there. And we made that program in Auroville where the mother's voice was there, and she would tell you.
Yeah, but this is also some kind of knowledge and but back to one's experience.
Yeah.
Because we could foresee that the world is changing and there is an increasing, let's say, vibration, energy pulling from I don't know where, and things are become more and more, let's say, acute within ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, more and more.
And we have to deal with that.
That's right. So that intensity, you see, is what I would call a grace, because that pushes me and everybody else to change. Because what we're talking about is this so-called transformation. Where are we going? We're going out of this limited species, this limited human species, and Sri Aurobindo has proposed the supramental being. So that's just another mythology, but it's useful.
Okay, so could we advise to our audience, okay, on one hand to try to grasp the knowledge, but also could we advise people to follow their flow, to follow this thing?
But see, the way it's presented in the old ways is that is difficult, and that you have to suffer to
this
get.
Is the whole Catholicism.
Well, everybody's that way. The asceticism of every religion, that you have to struggle to get knowledge, and that there is a God out there, or there's something outside of you that is demanding your giving yourself up in some kind of sacrifice, or some kind of mechanism like that is not true.
And then you can get God as a reward of your sacrifice.
Or something like that.
But it's not out of reach. It's very present within ourselves, no?
Absolutely, but how to get to it? See, now we go back. So, I mean, the thing that one time, and just not too long ago, I met a Sufi master. And so people are asking him, okay, what are the three principles of Sufism? And he goes like this, he put his two hands out. He said, calm down. First principle, calm down. Second principle, calm down. Third principle, calm down. And you felt it.
This is a koan, huh?
And more than a koan, because, you know, he had the experience and he had the presence to communicate that to the people sitting in front of him. I was sitting there and I calmed down.
Yeah, this is something that I go through regularly in Auroville or elsewhere, that we are speaking about something which is uplifting, and suddenly there is something happening within ourselves in the room, because the very fact that we are all focusing on something makes something happen.
Right, right. So we're creating, see, we have the God power, we're creating this reality out here. You and me and all of us here. And this is a movie, it's all fake. See? This happened in time, what people are looking at. It happened in time. But time, you know, the two kinds of time, the chronos and the kairos, the timeless, are existing. But it's because of our consciousness. So our consciousness has this power. So that power, we rejoice in the power, we relax in the power, and we connect it to the breath. So meditation, all this meditation stuff is only about breathing. So if you slow down your breathing, just take a normal breath, and I mean thousands of teachers have said this. Yeah. You take a normal breath, but you breathe out slowly. And what happens? You calm down. Then when you calm down, what happens? The reality comes in. And you feel, I mean, Sri Aurobindo put it in Savitri also, you know.
So how do you explain that we cannot maintain and sustain this state of thing with ourselves? Because we are constantly discussing how to reach out that, and it's very easy to grasp, no?
It's very easy to grasp, but we're in love with the drama.
Okay.
So the drama, the excitement, the vital excitement, the conditions of the culture, all of these things are overwhelming the deeper, let's call it spiritual senses, that we are us. We are much more than these other things. But those other things are covered over by all the noise.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you know, meditation or whatever, or Matrimandir or an environment. So if people don't connect to nature and connect to each other in a meaningful way, you just run around like a rabbit or whatever, you know. It's just a lot of nonsense. And that's what's happening. But see, fortunately, that's changing. Yeah. People are waking up. But see, we're still doing war. In 2025, still doing war. How can you have a war going on in Ukraine, Middle East, and all in Africa, everywhere?
In Auroville.
Yeah, in Auroville, people, you know, bashing each other. I mean, that is so absurd and so unnecessary. And we have everything we need, including the technology, including the methods. We have all these methods of, holacracy, pro-social.
Yeah.
We have
Collective intelligence.
Yeah.
And we have this thing within ourselves which is pushing,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Pausing allows something deeper to express.
Right. And it's coming. I mean, you can feel it. I mean, I can feel the difference just in my own life. See, that's another great advantage that many people don't have who are young. They think that this present situation is sort of stuck and it's going to get worse. But when I was young, it looked worse. But now, things are breaking down. How are we ever going to get out of the old systems? Well, now they're falling apart. So, wonderful. And we'll be able to keep going. And all the things that happened in my life that I thought were disasters actually turned out to be things I needed to have experienced, to know, so I can take the next step.
Yeah.
So each thing, and then we call that the grace, or whatever we want to call it. But it is real. You see, it is real. It's not a made-up theory that you're reading. It's happening to us on a daily basis. And then when you speak of these wonderful things like love, and you feel the love and the oneness, that's what Sri Aurobindo said, that's the magic of the transformation. Feel it.
And we speak it on the psychic being, and we feel something is happening.
Yeah.
Because we are all together in a group. When we speak about the psychic being, we try to grasp something, and this intention that is shared with all the people brings something.
But you see, the trying also gets in the way, and the search for meaning, the struggle to find out, to know, that all have to drop. See, because that creates a barrier.
Yeah.
See, there's no trying. There's no trying. But you still have to do things, discipline, you have to get up in the morning and but the motivation to get up in the morning is coming from inside.
Yeah.
See, it's not coming from something out there, I like coffee, smell the coffee, wake up and smell the coffee. No, it's not something else.
Smelling the coffee
is also part of it.
Okay. Thank you
Sure.
very much. Lee.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, I think doing these kind of experiments is really good, but the results we leave to the universe. Yeah. And thank you for all the effort to do these things.